All right, here we go. Another special edition of the quarantine stream. CP from Knicks Fan TV. My man JL's from the Nick of Time show. Special guest with us, JL's.
Yeah.
He is a former Heisman Trophy winner. He played point guard for the New York Knicks for 9 seasons. A leader, a warrior, high character, quality athlete. Charlie Ward in the building. Charlie, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing just fine. I guess enjoying life down here in Tallahassee. I hadn't gone very many places, but still enjoying life.
Yeah, and that's all we can do. Just taking it one day at a time. Before we kick into the interview here, obviously there's a lot going on in the country. There's a lot of tension and turmoil, a lot of emotions flying, anxiety. Not too far from you in Brunswick, Georgia, we had the Ahmaud Arbery situation, his murder, unfortunate murder. We had the Breonna Taylor incident in St. Louis, and just recently we had the George Floyd murder in Minnesota. You have kids. You also coach a basketball team of young men down at Florida State's prep team. How has that, all these events kind of impacted you, and what's been your message to both your family and your team?
Well, just, to our boys, we're just reiterating to them, the importance of, being respectful, whether it's to authority, to friends, but also understanding the reality of being a Black male, that, these types of things happen, even if you haven't witnessed it. But these are, incidents that occur, and you have to have a plan. I think a lot of times, it's nerve-wracking when you get stopped by a cop, and you've either been speeding, but it's another, whole nother thought process when you haven't done anything wrong and you get stopped by a cop. And so, it's just understanding, respect authority, and, do what you've been asked to do, and let your kindness, be your card, as opposed to what we've seen, knowing that if you do go against authority or talk back to authority, we've seen it go a different direction for us, for the most part. And so we just have to be mindful of those things, and we're working diligently every day to teach them, about being respectful to authority, being obedient, and doing the things that God has called them to do and to be, and also just keeping their eyes open, understanding that sometimes what you see when it comes to interracial relationships, we've seen the other side of it. If something goes wrong, but we've also seen where things go well and there's no issues, but there are some family members that may not like it. And so just understanding all those dynamics and things that you have to talk through and think through before you jump into those type of situations is something that we talk about a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, I have an infant son here in my home as well. And, that's a conversation that I, plan to have with him at some point. And as you said, it certainly could be a nerve-wracking situation, whether you were in the right or in the wrong. Just those encounters with law enforcement are oftentimes tense. So, we hope for justice, obviously, in these cases, and hope for healing for our country, and ultimately we'll have some unity. But, as I said, we definitely appreciate you coming on and giving us some time, and a welcome distraction to these things to kind of share your moments, the good old days, as we would call it, with the Knicks. So as we kick it off, You were a superstar athlete at Florida State, a two-sport athlete with football and basketball. We've had other two-sport athletes come in our lifetime. Bo Jackson, playing football and baseball. Yeah, Deion Sanders going to your alma mater, playing football and baseball. John Elway as well. How were you able to maintain, the discipline to balance both sports and excel at both sports at such a high level?
Well, I have a book out, and it's called The Athlete, and it's called The Athlete because that's what I did. That's what I enjoyed doing, being an athlete. And so, growing up, I played everything. When it came to ball, at the end of it, I enjoyed doing those things where we played in the streets. Played in the backyard, played in the neighborhood, playgrounds, wherever it was. I just enjoyed being an athlete. And once I got to college, I made up my mind before I got to college that I wanted to play both sports. I didn't know I would have the success in either sport, but I just knew that I wanted to be able to compete in basketball and football because I enjoyed playing sports. And it worked out, in the end, when I was in school for 5 years, which was a dream come true for me. I was grateful that, I was able to be in school for 5 years. So I got redshirted my second year. I was a punter my freshman year, and I got redshirted my second year in college for football. And that's when I went out to play basketball full time, starting in October. And that gave me a leg up because I was redshirting football. And so Coach Bowden allowed me to do it. And I went out and enjoyed it, had a good season. And that kind of started my clock, in a sense, of playing basketball full time once I finished, football. And so for the next 2 years, for the next year after the year that I played basketball full time, I was back and forth from playing football because I was still a third string quarterback. And so I wasn't getting any reps and game reps. I was more scout team. And so I was back and forth in November, the month of November, and first part of December when we were getting ready for the bowl game. And then while we were at the bowl game, I went and played some basketball games. I practiced in the morning, and then I flew out that evening to go and play in the game the next day, a basketball game. And then I flew back to bowl practice. And so, that was fun because I was, playing two sports. I'm enjoying it. And then once I started playing my junior year, I had to, I played football the entire year. And then I would go out for basketball either the week after, which was my junior year. I went the week after. My senior year, I waited like a week and a half or so before I went out because of the bowl game. Was beat up pretty good. We played Nebraska in the championship game. And so I had to allow my body to rest for a little bit before I went and started playing basketball.
I bet, yeah.
But, I just enjoyed it. And I was grateful that I was at a great university that also helped me achieve my goal of getting a degree while I was there. So, in the 5 years, I was able to obtain my degree in therapeutic recreation. And so that was another milestone and accomplishment for me to be able to get my degree before I left. And then I had the luxury of playing two sports on top of that. So I definitely had the American dream.
For sure.
Absolutely. And I know you ended up winning a Heisman, but you're one of the first, I think you are the first person to ever get a Heisman to not play in the NFL. So tell me, what led you to basketball instead of playing in the NFL? Like, what was that process, or what was that thought process?
Well, the whole process for me was my senior year. After the football season, I made up in my mind that I was going to go and play basketball for my senior year at FSU. And so, because I was a senior and one of the leaders coming back to the basketball team, I just felt like it wasn't right for me to go and leave them high and dry. And secondly, I wanted to leave my options open for potentially playing in the NBA. And so with that decision, I knew there would be consequences, just like all decisions have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
The consequence that I knew I would have is I wasn't going to be 100% committed to the NFL, because during the month of January is when they had the draft. And I wasn't prepared to go to the draft because I was playing basketball. And so I missed the combine.
Oh, okay.
Back then, the combine wasn't like it is today, but it was still a process for the NFL draft. And so I missed the combine because I had a basketball game, and plus I wasn't prepared for anything to compete or do. And so that with that whole going to play basketball my senior year opened up the door for me to have an opportunity to play both sports. Even though I knew that I wasn't 100% committed to the NFL with that decision, but it still gave me an option to be able to either work out, which I did, pro day here at Florida State. I did my pro day, but after my senior year in basketball, I really chose to spend more time preparing for the NBA draft.
Okay.
Because I was behind.
So I mean, there were some people who said that maybe that you, I'm sorry, watch the police please go by. There were some people who said that maybe is the sound, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you good, bro.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Okay, my bad. All right, there were some guys who might have thought that, in the 90s, black quarterbacks weren't necessarily looked upon as guys who were desirable to lead a team in the NFL. And also, you happen to be a 6-foot guard in the NBA. Height is also something that people regard in the NFL. Do you feel like those things contributed to you not being drafted in the first round in the NFL, or was it just that you just kind of took off?
I think there's a little bit of both. During my time, there was Tony Rice, Major Harris. Those guys were slightly above, or a little bit taller, around my height, and they were athletes as well. In their system, they did what they needed to do. They ran the ball, they threw the ball, but they weren't prototypical quarterbacks where they were going to drop back and throw the ball and from the pocket the entire time. And so that was, the knock on most of us, that, we were athletic and, we would potentially be able to move to a different position because we were athletes. And also there was that notion that, we if we didn't do well on the Wonderlic test, that we couldn't think, properly. That was the notion out there. I'm not saying that was actually spoken to me, but that was what one of the things that was talked about. And it was just a different time than where we are today. But one of the things I couldn't change was my height. God had given me a certain height at that time. But there are other intangibles that I possess, and I always looked at myself as a guy very similar to Joe Montana and Steve Young. Those guys were 6 foot, 6'1", same framework as me, but it just wasn't the right time. I just came through at the wrong time, and we weren't given those type of opportunities, especially in the first round.
Yeah.
And the first pick, even if I would have gone and thrown and done all necessary things, I probably would have never been the first pick. Now, there's a possibility of me being the first round draft pick because there was Danny Green, who's the head coach with the Minnesota Vikings, and Tony Dungy was there as well. And I know after hearing Coach Dungy speak one time at a Black coaches convention, he mentioned that they were potentially looking at me as a first round pick to go to Minnesota.
Right.
But they were unsure that I would, that I was 100% committed to the NFL, which I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you said in your book, Tony Dungy was a huge ally of yours. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for your boys. We're talking to former Knicks point guard Charlie Ward. Tonight's hashtag, Jay, let's do a hashtag Ward21. Throw a Ward21 in the chat to salute Charlie tonight. Charlie, when you get drafted by the Knicks, they're coming off of a heartbreaking Game 7 NBA Finals loss to the Houston Rockets. The old guard is still there. All the pillars are there. It's Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, Pat Riley, the coach. As a rookie going into camp that year, how did those guys try to test you? I know in the book you mentioned you had to run the gauntlet. Can you describe to the fans what the gauntlet was and how that kind of prepared you for your rookie season?
Well, the gauntlet, was a rookie initiation deal, and so it was something that I'm not a big fan of, a rookie initiation, especially if it's physical. I don't mind carrying bags, going to get food, that kind of stuff, serving, but from a physical standpoint, I'm just not a big believer in somebody hitting on me just because, I'm a rookie.
Was okaying on you?
Who was that?
Was okaying on you?
He's hitting on folks, but
I'm glad you're still here with us, Charlie.
Yeah, that's who he is. But one of the things that the gauntlet, it was 2 lines on. One line lined up across from each other, and the rookies had to run through. And so Monty Williams went before me. And it's essentially guys run through and they start hitting you with elbows and all that kind of, jazz. And so Monty went before me, and he ended up getting caught up. Someone hit him, and he got stuck. And that's where he ended up having to, ended up getting caught by everyone.
Man.
It busted his lip and the whole 9. And so when I went through, I kind of waited for Monty to go. And then as soon as he got towards the end, I took off. And my whole deal was all about speed and then using each side against one another. So when one guy went to lunge, I would move out of his way because the other guy wasn't prepared.
You playing football.
That's it.
So I ended up going through. I navigated my way through really, really fast because I went through fast and no one touched me. And so, I missed that part of the initiation, but I did get the Oakley treatment we were in scrimmage or team, 5-on-5, and I was going for a layup, breakaway layup, and he came with his fist and hit me in the nose. But it was a retaliation because I had gotten him like a few plays before on something. So he was getting me back, and I knew it was part of the game. It was part of the initiation part, no layups and those types of things. And I didn't say anything. I just kept playing, and from that day forward, I had no issues with Oak, and he also took care of me.
Man, tough love. Yeah. That's a funny story. In that there was a crowded backcourt. The Knicks had made a statement when they drafted you is that your leadership qualities had really stuck out to them. But it was a very crowded backcourt. You still had Derek Harper, you had Doc Rivers there. Obviously, Starks was a mainstay. Who were some of your mentors that season that kind of got you through?
Well, I was blessed, to have some great veterans. In my position. So Derek Harper, of course, Doc was there for half a year. Greg Anthony was there. And so, between those three guys, the guy that I admired the most and learned the most from was Derek Harper, because of course he was a seasoned vet. He had a family, and he kind of took me in under his wing in a lot of respects. And so I would go over to his house, his wife, Sheila, cook, and I, got a chance to see his kids, know his kids. And, that was a big thing for me, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a husband while playing in the NBA. I also wanted to have kids, and I wanted to have a long career. And Derek was one of those guys that had a long career, even during that time. At that time, he had been in the league for quite some time. I'm not sure how long, but that's the kind of career I wanted to have, and so I wanted to learn from him. Of course, I also, gravitated towards Herb Williams, because he was another veteran that had been in the league for quite some time, and Herb took me under his wing as well, and taught me, how to be a professional. He had some great stories. Some of them, of course, were a little boring, but he still told them. But it was all great learning. And there were other guys on the team, but I just didn't gravitate towards them because they were going in a different direction than I wanted to go. But those guys I learned a lot from. When Buck Williams came to the Knicks, I learned a lot from him as well, because he's a seasoned vet. Terry Cummins. So, I was a youngster still when those guys were coming through. And I just always gravitated towards them because they had been in the league for so long. And I just wanted to figure out, what they were doing to make it. Right. And, I was grateful to be able to play 11 years in the NBA, and a lot of credit goes to those guys that I just talked about.
Right, yeah. So the Knicks and Miami, they had a pretty big rivalry, and there's an infamous rivalry that happened. There's an incident that happened in 1997 with you and PJ. Walk me through that incident with you and PJ Brown. What happened, and what led up to the whole backflip of Charlie Ward onto the floor?
Well, the Knicks and the Heat, we always had intense games, series, especially in that series. There's always going to be some tension because both teams were very similar. It's just like a marriage, just like friendships. If you have people that are alike, they're going to always be at odds with one another. And so that's why they always say opposites attract. But for us, that was what it was. I mean, we weren't opposites. We were the same, and same mentality, same plays, pretty much the same type players. The coaches ingrained the same mentality. And so when those things happen, you're going to have incidents like the one that happened with PJ and I, and that was more of an intense in the game moment. There was nothing more than that. Actually, PJ and I are, still friends.
Oh, it's just
even after that. He's actually supported, our football programs when I was coaching football.
Right.
And so we recognize what it was. And also for me, whenever I have incidents on the floor, that's what it is. It stays on the floor. And once the game's over, the game's over. People bring it up, brought it up. And I just had to roll with the punches with that piece. But when that whole incident happened, I knew, and he knew, because he was mature as well, that it was just something that happened in the game, in that moment, and we had to live with the consequences. And
yeah, at that time, you guys were up 3-1, and the suspensions that happened after that
killed us, man. We lost 5 Knicks. 5 Knicks, man.
Right. So I'll take the blame for it. But I don't have a problem.
But did you feel like, 2 years later, Charlie, you had the Houston buzzer beater in '99. Did you kind of feel like vindicated, or did you feel like you kind of got some redemption as a team? Maybe not yourself, but as a team. Did you guys kind of feel that way when Houston's buzzer beater went down in '99?
Well, someone brought to my attention that we won 3 out of 4 series against them. So I don't know if that actually, was vindication for the incident. But I think it was just good for us to be able to get to the next level, to where we wanted to go. And we were, of course, HC'd at the time with some new pieces, Latrell Sprewell and Marcus Camby. And Kirk was relatively new to the group. And so it took us some time to gel, because that was a lockout year as well.
Right.
And so we were able to navigate our way through. We got hot late down the stretch. I think we won the last 6 games or something to get into the playoffs, and we rode that momentum. And back then it was, a 5-game series in the first round, and that gives the underdog team an opportunity to steal a series because you only have 5 games.
Right.
I'm not saying we wouldn't have won if it was 7 games, but with 5 games, there's 2 less games, and you have a better chance of winning if you're an HC. So. But I watched the game, here, I think, last month, and it was a very good game. I mean, we were pretty much down in the fourth quarter, and we fought our way back to get it to 1 to win. Allen hit the runner to put us up. I think with either 0.8 seconds or something like that on the clock. And, it was vindication for us to win the series, just because we wanted to get to the next series, but we were also the 8th seed.
True indeed. And we're talking to Charlie Ward. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys and throw a hashtag Ward21 in the chat to salute Charlie. Charlie, as you mentioned, that 99 season, there was so much change in the roster. You had the point guard platoon between you and Chris Childs. You guys were able to navigate that very well. Sprewell was new. He got injured. Your offense really struggled. Van Gundy's job was on the line. How rewarding was it when you got past Indiana to really get to the finals? I mean, did you even think that was possible the way the season was going?
Well, we did struggle, during the course of the year. Because of the lockout year, we didn't have time to gel. And as you mentioned, we did have, injuries because we were playing a lot of games back to back. There were some some weeks we were playing 3 games in a row to try to make up to get to a certain number, which I think was 50 at the time. And so, we had a lot of things that we had to navigate through, and as you mentioned, Coach Van Gundy's job was on the line. All of our jobs were on the line, and in some form or fashion. And also being in New York, your job's always on the line.
Yep.
So that's just part of being in New York. But the good thing was we had some good foundational pieces. We had some good talent. We knew that if we could ever get healthy or get everyone back playing, that we had a chance. And I think that's what happened. We started to catch our stride late in the season, and we were able to run off, when we needed to run off, get on a run to make it to the playoffs. We were able to do that. But, just like anything that has some success at the end of the rainbow, there's always going to be those times where doubt comes in from the outside, and internally we have to stick together. There's going to be times that's going to, we have to persevere through, the challenges. And we can't listen, we couldn't listen to the outside noise because that would only throw us back even further. And so we just found a way to bond and come together as one team and be able to overcome all the negativity that was on the outside. And we used to have meetings and team meetings and player-only meetings. We had quite a few of those during the time. But, when it's all said and done, when you're out there on the court, guys got to be bought into the process. And I think, we had enough veteran guys and guys willing to, play as one unit that we were able to overcome, the negativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was certainly a magical season, certainly a magical season. And that whole run from the Houston buzzer beater to LJ's 4-point play, the city was certainly proud of you. Certainly proud of you guys. Even though we came up a bit short, obviously, the Spurs were a juggernaut, but the city was definitely proud of you guys.
For well, sure. we were limping into the finals too. Yeah. We were fortunate to be able to win the Indiana series because Larry kind of went down midway.
Yeah. That hurt. That
hurt us. Yeah,
hurt us.
Midway in the Indiana series. And so we were able to overcome that injury, but we knew going into the finals that it was going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because they had two 7-footers.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have the firepower, the depth to be able to compete with them.
Yeah.
With those two guys. And Tim Duncan was a rookie, but he was still good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Spreewell and Houston go off in game 4. And Spree goes off again game 5 as a magical fourth quarter. The Garden is electric. When it came down to the final play and you're making that inbound and it just got Spree a little bit under the basket. As a quarterback, you were the star of Florida State. As a quarterback, did that final play eat at you a little bit, to end the finals?
Initially, I'm sure it did. Now, of course, see it again, I probably would initially. But, we had practiced that play, numerous occasions. And, it was either going to be a hit or miss deal because I don't have to anticipate the slip. And so, it just wasn't meant to be. That's all I can say,
Yeah.
It happens.
I made some good passes, like the pass to LJ for the 4-point play.
Right.
He was like the last resort to getting the ball, and that got tipped, and he ended up catching it, and of course, getting the 4-point play out of it. And so those types of plays, they do happen, and it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, Charlie, you had your MSG moments though. On Mother's Day, game 4 versus Miami in the playoffs. Once again, it's always Miami. You had 20 points. You had 20 points, and you scored the last 9 points of the game. And at this point, you got the Garden cheering your name, Charlie. Like, did you dream of that as a kid? because the Garden is a tough place to play, so it's not always cheers for everybody. So when you had that Garden moment, what was you thinking, and did you ever think it would be that intense?
Well, I've, during my career, I had the opposite as well. I've gotten booed, for other reasons, but and I always talk about enjoying the moment. That's one of the things I tell people today is, whatever it is, enjoy the moment. Because when you enjoy the moment, you look back over your time and you won't have any regrets, whether it's positive or negative. And because that means you've learned, at that time, and you've enjoyed, the good and the bad. It only shapes you both ways. It shapes you to be better people. And so, I enjoyed that moment because that was the first time our oldest son, who's 20 now, came to the game. He was just born in February. And so that was his first game. And I was, elated that, I was able to, have a very good game. But that was not the norm for me.
Had an extra mojo that day, extra motivation.
Yes. So, that was great, great moment. One of my defining moments in the NBA when it comes to just an overall game. And it wasn't something that, I knew would happen all the time. And so, because I was a role player.
Right.
Latrell, Allen, Patrick, John, those types of guys, if they had not LJ, they had 9 points in a quarter, it wouldn't be a big issue because that's what they do all the time. But for me, I got hot. Seemed like everything I threw up went in. And, that's just, I was grateful for that moment. And as you brought up, I actually got a chance to watch it and, on a rerun. And it was something that I was like, wow, that's me.
Surprised yourself.
I
right?
did that.
Yeah.
Years later. That's very interesting. And once again, we're talking to Charlie Ward, former Knicks point guard. Throw a hashtag Ward21 in the chat to salute Charlie. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Charlie, a couple more questions for you. As I had said earlier, the Knicks, when they drafted you, they really pointed to your leadership skills. I heard an interview with Allen Houston, yourself, and he mentioned also in the book the Charlie Ward effect. That effect that you had on the team. Jeff Van Gundy also gave you credit for that. But you were never known to be a rah-rah guy or, the most boisterous in the locker room. So how were you able to command that respect with the demeanor that you had?
Well, everyone knew where I stood. Of course, I'm not perfect in any stretch of the imagination. And, one of my slogans or things that I always talk about with people is humility will always win. And so when I had negative incidents, whether I was right or wrong in the incident, I always wanted to be humble about it. Whether it was through apology in the way I treated people. And, people respect the work part because a lot of them saw, especially Coach Van Gundy, who's my mentor, my coach who helped me with my skill development over the course of my NBA career early on. He saw the work that I put in, the attitude of being a good teammate, even though sometimes I didn't want to be a good teammate, but overall just having a great attitude for, my teammates, and then just wanting to do the right things, and, there are a few times where, some people won't challenge like the best players, but, I was one, even though I wasn't a superstar. I just want guys to understand and know that there are ways you do things and handle things. And so, there's an incident. There's quite a few incidents that happened, but there's one incident where, sometimes as professionals, we get to a point where we get numb to the fact that someone else may have to clean up our mess.
Mm.
And so, Patrick, after a Dallas Mavericks game on the road, he was upset that we lost and might have been going through a stretch where we were losing games. And he came in and kicked the he came in and kicked the trash can. And it was a big trash can.
At least he didn't punch it like a Martin did.
So he kicks the trash can and all the trash is on the floor. And so the managers or someone started picking up the trash. And so, he was frustrated, and I wasn't so much frustrated with the loss, but I became frustrated because of the response of one of our best players and then expect someone else to clean it up. And so I just rose up and say, with a strong, stern voice, that he should be the one to pick it up. and not the trainer. And I told the trainers, don't pick it up. Make him pick it up. And of course, he was in front of everyone. Whoop. But the key was it wasn't so much. We're all frustrated, but we got to make sure that we're handle our frustration the right way, and don't expect somebody else to clean up your mess just because you're an NBA player. And that's one of the things that bothered me the most. And that was just one incident with Patrick. But there were plenty, times where, and I'm sure I was guilty of it sometimes also. But I just wanted people to know that just because it may be someone else's job, we don't want to make their job harder by our actions. And then we get numb to the fact that I can just do whatever I want to do, and somebody else clean up the mess.
Yeah, ego neutralizer.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just tough love. And I think people, I didn't say much unless it was warranted. And I listened a lot and I watched a lot. But when it was time to speak up on those types of issues, those types of things, I didn't mind, speaking up.
Being vocal. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Couple more quick questions. Your three toughest guards. You were known for your defense, but who? I mean, you were in an era where there were a ton of star point guards in those '90s. Who were who would you say the three guys that really gave you a hard time?
Well, I mean, who gave me a hard time? Was all of them that you can think of during that time, because all the ones that had had green lights. There was Stephon Marbury. There's Allen Iverson. There's Tim Hardaway, even though he was, on the back end of his career.
Yeah, but we always beat them, so it's fine.
Yeah, but he was still tough. Mark Jackson was a different type of tough. He was just a big guard, backing folks down. Back then, they didn't have the 5-second rule.
Right.
So he was dribbling for 10 seconds in the post, playing old man basketball. And that was on the East Coast. Of course, I played against Terrell Brandon and Mark Price.
Terrell Brandon, highly underrated.
Those guys we played in the playoffs. Mookie Blaylock, even though he was on the back end, but he was still effective during the time my early years. But that was just in the East, and so out of those guys, you want to pick three. You can pick three.
Yeah. Old dogs, man. Old dogs.
Touche. Charlie, back when you played football, you actually played with Kevin Knox Sr., who I read always wanted the ball.
That's true.
and you do it to him a lot. So I mean, I guess The question is, what is your advice to someone like Kevin Knox Jr., who's, also trying to make his transition to football and basketball? Because, Kevin Knox Jr., who's on the Knicks right now, play a lot of football as well.
Well, I guess the other thing is one of those guys are trying to get to their next contract because apparently I was the last rookie. To get a second contract with the Knicks, and so I know they're hoping, and he's hoping that he is that guy to get a second contract. I'm sure at some point they're going to keep a rookie around. They're starting to, draft them, and they're young, so hopefully they can keep them around. But for any of those young guys, when you're drafted to a team that's had a lot of instability and management, the key is just trying to find the things that you do well. But more importantly, the thing that I found as a young player trying to find my way was, putting the time in off the court, meaning outside of the games, and to improve my game each and every day, just putting the time in and not taking, being a first round pick for granted that I'm going to be here and I'm going to play because I'm a first round pick. But, putting the time in when, before practice or after practice, getting your shots up, working on your game, being in the community,
right?
Doing all those things that, is going to keep you around, and they should feel bad about trading you when you've put the time in, before practice and possibly after practice, getting with the coaches so you can learn, concepts and what you're, watching film with those guys. Then, being a intricate part in the community. And so, you want to make it hard for them to want to trade you or don't want you to be around. And of course, there's always business decisions, but when it's all said and done, I always say you got to improve upon something each and every year. And so hopefully those young guys, are doing that. And if you come back the same player each and every year, then that means you're not putting the time in to develop something new. And so, I tell my kids that who play only basketball, high school kids, that you can't come back the same player. You got to come back. You got to take the evaluations that the coaches give you, go and work on that part of it, and so that you can improve upon something that you may have been lacking the year before. And if you don't do that, then that's when you're subject to being, one of those guys is always in a trade because they don't see your value. And then sometimes, when you do play well and they may want someone else, they see your value, but now you become valuable to someone else as opposed to a guy that they just throw in a deal. I'm not saying that's bad if that is the case, but at least you feel comfortable. I mean, at least you feel better about yourself if you're thrown into a deal as opposed to, if you've been putting the time in and the work in and you've improved, you at least feel better about being thrown into a deal as opposed to you just not getting the opportunity.
Yeah.
You hadn't improved, and now you're being thrown into a deal because your money is right.
Yeah, you want
to make the deal.
Yeah. And salute to Kevin Knox. I know the Knicks see him putting in a lot of work. It hasn't really garnered much success on the court as of yet, but we do see him working in the offseason. So shout out to Kevin Knox. Hopefully get it together. I know for you, Charlie, someone who's kind of helped you get your game together was Jeff Van Gundy. I know he worked with you a lot. He worked with you from a rookie, and eventually you was able to get to your start because of Jeff Van Gundy on the New York Knicks. And the Knicks right now, they need a coach. They need a coach.
Potentially, JLs. We don't want to throw Mike Miller under the bus just yet, but yeah, they're looking. They're looking for a permanent solution.
Do you feel like Jeff can step in as of now and be part of that solution? If not Mike Miller, because Mike Miller is great too. Mike Miller could be the next Jeff Van Gundy.
right. Um, I had Jeff on my Chalk Talk series that I do on IG Live, and he's itching to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, um, he wants the right situation.
Okay.
I know he said he's turned down some jobs, and he hadn't been able to get some jobs that he really wanted and thought would be a good situation for him. And I don't know if the Knicks right now are in a position to have a guy like him because of their roster. And I know, there's been talks about one of his understudies, Coach Tom Thibodeau.
Yes, Tom. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I think at this point, as I said earlier, it's hard when you don't have the stability in any organization. I don't care what organization it is. You got to have stability if you want to be successful long term. And so they haven't had any stability in the front office for a continuous,
20 years.
few years to be able to put together a product. And they've had multiple coaches come through. And when you start having that type of turnover in a program or a system, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, you're not going to have any success, because you may have 1 year where things go well, and then you got to, seem like you got to make a move here or whatever the case may be. But, it's been that way for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And until they can get some stability in the front office, they're getting ready to potentially make some more changes in the front office this year, because they got a new president.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now you got, Scott, looking over his shoulder, and they just brought another guy in that's under, Scott. And, it's just one of those deals where it's hard to be able to overcome that kind of, instability in the front office, because, as I've said time and time again, whenever the president, the athletic director, the AD, the head coach, and you can line them up in any organization, whatever that organization is, when all those people are aligned, you're going to have great success, regardless if it's the first year or second year or whenever it happens. If everyone's aligned, then things are going to, at least you'll have some success. But if you got any one of those things out of line, where one guy's looking over his shoulder because he's not sure if his job is secure, and he may go and do something to the team, as I've heard, that Scott, not having a contract after this year, or whatever the case may be, thinking about what may be happening and changing the whole team, or changing some pieces that may try to fit where he is right now, having a 1-year deal. And so now that throws whoever, if he doesn't make it, whoever comes in now has to go and get some more groceries to fit his, fit his style of eating, and, as an analogy. But now you got a whole nother vibe.
Whole nother reason.
Yep. I heard Van Gundy. It sounded like Van Gundy don't want us. That's what I heard.
So again?
It sounded like Van Gundy don't want us. That's what I heard from you.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, but I do know he understands. He's been around long enough, and he understands what it takes to be successful. And right now, the Knicks are the stability piece is not in place for a guy like him.
Yeah, like I was telling JL, Charlie, I said he doesn't have that much hair left, man. We can't stress him out too much of this team. He's got to go to a ready-made situation, man. You see the evolution, Charlie. You see it.
So good.
They have some good young pieces. The Knicks, they have some good young pieces to build around. But they should probably think about doing it the way Philly did it, not tanking the way they did to get draft picks, but they're continue to try to bring in some good pieces to be able to help those young guys develop.
Yeah.
I know for me, when I came into the league, I had veteran guys that took me under their wing.
Right.
And I wasn't thrusted into the process or the playing, right away. And so I had some time to develop. But I don't know, with the league getting younger each and every year, young guys are coming in at 19 years old, and they're asked to be the leader of the group because they're the first pick, lottery pick, and now they're being asked to lead, and they're just at a point where they're not mature enough to do that. And of course they have skills, but as we all know, skills aren't all the things that you need to be successful, and also to be able to lead a veteran, or be able to lead a team to either the playoffs or beyond. And so, they have some time, and I think Leon, he has a plan, just like mostly, everyone else that comes and gets a new job. And I just pray that they're able to give guys time to work a plan.
Yeah.
I mean, if Mike Miller's the guy, and I thought he did a pretty good job taking over.
Me too.
The Fitz deal. They did what they had to do as far as what they thought was best. Getting rid of Coach Fitz, because when a coach feels the stress and the pressure of his job being on the line, it trickles down. It's a trickle down effect. And so it came to a point where there was so much coming from upper management, whether it was in a newspaper or, behind closed doors, that he couldn't effectively do his job well because he had so much stress on his plate, and he couldn't think properly. And as we all know, when we're in stressful situations, it's tough to think.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't care what kind of situation you're in. It's tough to think through stressful situations. And so it was just a lot of stress, and I think it was affecting his job, and it was time for him to move on so that the team could progress. And Coach Miller came in and did a great job of rallying the troops and at least making them respectable each and every game. Of course, they did have some outliers, but for the most part, when I saw, they were competing and close to winning. And he could be the next Jeff Van Gundy.
I said that so many times on this program.
Never know. But as you said, the key words: stability and patience. We need those two things. And
she said the same thing.
The Knicks, she said the same thing. The X-Man said the same thing in terms of having quality veterans. And we just haven't had that since you were there, Charlie, since the last 20 years, unfortunately. And once again, we're talking to Charlie Ward, former Knicks point guard. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys, and throw a Ward 21 in the chat. Charlie, as we wrap up here, these two final questions, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be? You played 9 years with this team. How do you want to be remembered?
Well, first of all, a man of character. Treated people with respect. Also community oriented. Got out in the community to help better the community. Hard worker. That's something that I think we all want to be characterized as, and have a legacy of people understand and know that you are a hard worker. And just a leader, one that led by example and spoke whenever a voice needed to be, heard. And I always, when I look back over my time, I didn't speak all the time because I always wanted to sit back and listen. And but when something needed to be said that wasn't right, I would speak up. And of course, it got me in hot water sometimes with the media. But I just think people respect when you one. That's another one. I want to be remembered as having humility, because when you make a mistake, you own up to your mistake and you learn from it and keep it moving. And so I think hopefully those are the things that people remember me by as a Knick. And the hard work, of course, I was a glue guy. I think a lot of people will recognize that I wasn't a superstar on the basketball court, but I was a guy that did all the little things to help a team win.
Certainly played defense.
Whether it was diving on loose balls, taking charges, making extra pass, whatever, the little things that's going to help a team win. Hopefully that's what I'm remembered by.
Well said. And again, we certainly appreciate the time you gave us as a Knick and the time you gave us tonight, man. We really appreciate all the time that you spent with us. The fans were certainly appreciative. And as I said when we started, it's certainly a needed distraction, during this time. As we close, do you want to just share with the fans some of the things that you're working on? You had mentioned your Chalk Talk series. You want to just share with them some of your off the court endeavors that they can participate and support?
Well, yes. I mean, if you go to charlieward.org, I have a book that I autograph, and it's my story from my family to my earlier days to what I'm not currently doing, but in a sense of high school coaching. And we also have a family foundation where we support organizations, hurricane relief. My daughter has a holiday notes where she encourages senior citizens through music. And we also support youth organizations as well. And then, I'm a high school coach. I coach at Florida State University School, AKA Florida High. And I do public speaking whenever we get back to normal. Normally go and share my story around the country. And last thing, as you mentioned, I've been doing Chalk Talk series on IG Live. So every Tuesday and Thursday. This Tuesday we were off because of the Blackout Tuesday. But we did it today. And then I'll have Anquan Bolden on tomorrow.
Okay. Nice.
Of course, he's an NFL great, but he's a Florida State alum. And he also has a player coalition that he started around the time when Kaepernick, started taking a knee for social injustice. And so he'll be on tomorrow, but every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm chopping it up with someone, talking about something of importance that we can all learn from, and just things that, and it's different. It's not all sports. For the most part, most of the people are sports oriented or in that field, but we talk about life issues and life lessons that we've gone through, and we've been able to help others understand it better. And we're not experts, we're just life experience sharers.
Right. Right.
Well, that's excellent. And we just threw the links in the chat to your website and also your Instagram. It's at Charlie Ward Official. So you guys make sure you check out the Chalk Talk series. Charlie, thanks again for the time, man. We definitely appreciate it. You have some people in the chat saying you look great, man. They say you look like you could still play right now.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question. What's your skincare routine, man? Like, you look like you're 25.
Just got the fountain of youth, man.
I cannot, at this point, I cannot play. I can't even run up and down the court. But no, many of y'all know, if you've been following, I think some of y'all been following me. You know, I had a mini stroke about 2.5 years ago. And that got me, and I do believe my stroke was related to stress on the job, and led to some bad eating habits. But when I had my mini stroke, it gave me an opportunity to hit the reset button. God gave me another opportunity to be able to get to work on my, eating habits. And so I became a vegan, a plant-based eater. And, I started to exercise more than I was doing before, because 2 days a week is better than 0 days.
Right.
0 days. But, just being able to move and those types of things. But, when you start eating plant-based, unless you're eating a lot of sweets outside of that, it's hard sometimes to lose weight, unless you're eating a lot of beans and rice and just those types of things at the wrong time. But, it's been good for me to 2.5 years I've been a vegan, eating plant-based diet, and, it's been very helpful. And of course I can say this, sometimes, you say it may look one way, but in reality, it may be something totally different. So you hide some things well.
Yeah, well, so we're certainly glad you back to full strength, or at least it appears to be, and working on recovery. Certainly important, especially in our community, to maintain a good diet and certainly exercise, maintain our stress levels, especially during these times. So once again, Charlie, man, thanks again for spending some time with us. Great to hear from you. Great to see you, and hopefully you'll join us again down the road. Yes,
sir. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for, I think you've been on a couple times at IG.
Yeah.
Checking us out. And so I appreciate you guys following us.
Absolutely. And we'll be tuned in as well in the Anquan Bolden interview. So thanks again, Charlie. Be safe and have a good evening.
All right, y'all do the same.
All right.
Go New York, go New York, go.
Hey.
Perfect segue. Perfect segue. Charlie Ward, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent. Throw Ward 21 in the chat. That was a great interview, man. Charlie, thanks again.
I appreciate you guys.
All right. That was Charlie Ward. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Another quality post-game live production. We hit the music for him, James. We hit the music for him. So to everybody in the chat, man, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. What were your takeaways, Dales?
Takeaways. Biggest takeaway was Charles Oakley laid the hands of God on him during the gauntlet.
The gauntlet, right? That was the initiation into the 90s Knicks. Imagine that. You got Ewing, Oakley, Mason, right? You had Charles Smith. You had Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers had some elbows, man. You're going through Harper, the hand check king. Toughen you up.
Yes.
Yeah. So PJ thought, he was messing around with the chicken dinner. Nah, man, we're well seasoned here.
My man played football. It's not all sweet when you're quarterback. You taking some hits.
People need to realize, don't look at Charlie Ward's NBA stats and equate that to the type of athlete. This boy was the creme de la creme in the country. A two-sport. You know how hard it is just to make it to the NBA or the NFL, much less be considered for both.
Listen. Watch those Charlie Ward football highlights, bro. That boy is bad.
That boy was a bad boy, man.
The spin move, spinning out the pocket, throwing 60 yards on the move, bro. 200, 400-pound dudes running after. Yo, that dude was nice.
Charlie Ward was a bad man in college, man. And again, think about this. Basketball was a passion of his, but he played it as a hobby at Florida State.
Hobby.
And still made it to the league, first round pick.
Yeah.
And they still knew that and knew that he was coming in as a project because he had to get up to speed. And he still made it as the top 300 basketball players in the country and got playing time.
Crazy. It's interesting because you're doing research for this guy. I ran across a clip of Penny Hardaway giving Charlie Ward praise.
Yep. How about we didn't even touch on this, and this is in his book, and his book is very good, man. I definitely encourage you guys while we are in the downtime, and the phone lines are up 657-383-1509. Let us know what you guys thought about the interview or whatever else you want to talk about. MJ invited him to his locker room after the Bulls versus Heat game in Miami. Charlie was down in Miami for the Orange Bowl, and MJ was more impressed that Florida State had beaten North Carolina in basketball. And he was impressed with Charlie Ward, invited Charlie Ward into the locker room to meet him. As you know, MJ did that, with certain celebrities. Charlie was a rock star, man. He was a rock star at Florida State. So
out here.
Incredible athlete. And stand-up guy, stand-up guy.
I think he played a little baseball too.
He got drafted by the Yankees, Jay Ellis.
Played baseball
he got
too.
drafted
He's a pitcher
by the Yankees. It
was like
do not sleep on the type of athlete that Charlie Ward was, man. He was an absolute beast. So
man,
very interesting.
Bo Jackson.
Yeah, very interesting, man. You had Bo Jackson, you had Dion. Most recently, you had Jameis Winston was playing two sports. So that was interesting. And then the fact that, he faced some adversity even playing college at quarterback at Florida State. There was a stigma around black quarterbacks. And again, he mentioned it to you. In terms of just being the scramblers and the questioning their IQ and the smarts and ability to read defenses and make the right play, and he broke down that barrier. He's one of the players that broke down that barrier. But I think the NFL, yes, they questioned his commitment to the sport, but I think that was still part of the issue. It's still part of the issue now. You see how they treated Lamar Jackson. Most recently, Jalen Hurts. They asked Jalen Hurts if he was going to play wide receiver in the league. He said, "No, I'm a quarterback. Don't make no mistake. I'm a quarterback." And in terms of the height situation, back then it wasn't that many starting quarterbacks around that height. But now you look at it. You have Baker Mayfield. You have Russell Wilson. Super Bowl winner. Kyler Murray's in the league right now. Drew Brees, who got dragged all over social media today. We'll talk about that later. But there's a lot of guys around 6 feet, 6'1", having success at the NFL level. So
if it wasn't a running back, he was nothing really. But
yeah, absolutely, man. Hang on one second. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Just getting the phone lines activated.
All right.
And man, excellent interview.
Our guy Ward.
While we are on the topic of interviews, we got another guest coming on Sunday, Jay Ellis.
Oh, really?
We might as well tell the people right now, because Sunday for the matinee edition, we got Raymond Felton coming through. Sunday, 3 p.m.
That's right.
Ray Fell is coming through to post-game live. Let's get it going. Ray Fell is coming through.
Why did we trade you? Why?
Hey, listen, first tour Raphael was solid, man. First tour Raphael
First
was
tour
definitely solid.
was solid. I remember when Curry torched you, but I also remember when you got that block at the last second. All right.
Yeah.
That's Ray
he was
Felton.
solid. Ray
That's Ray Felton, man. He's always gonna have
solid, man.
He had the heart.
Even
the heart
beginning Knicks tape, Ray Felton was solid, but after that he kind of fell off a little bit. But we'll talk to him. We're gonna talk to him about all that, man.
He was giving Amari all the oops, man.
Absolutely. Before he left, he was averaging 17 and 9, bro, or 17 and 6, 17 and 9. So that D'Antoni system.
Have we had a decent point guard since Ray Felton?
No, no, we haven't.
He might have been the last.
He was the last
decent point guard we had.
He was the last. So Ray Felton is coming through Sunday at 3 p.m. So the phone line's up, 657-383-1509. Definitely give us a call and let us know what you guys thought about the interview or anything you want to talk about. So to everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Definitely shout out Julian Blum in the chat, all the mods, Park City Dion, how you feeling? MIG, Livingston Mills, what's going on? Nick Flair, how you feeling? Who you want to shout out, Jails?
Yeah, John Talento, of course, Angel A1s, Ricardo Custer, my guy Alex Collins, who's chat hopping, Craig Williams,
Alex Collins was good.
Yeah, I saw Young Simba in here earlier. Yeah, that's for you. I know he was here earlier. Zach Patan. Oh, shout out to you, Angel A1 who sent you a super chat.
Okay.
He wanted to thank Charlie Ward for being here. Also, Orlando Santos, who also sent the super chat earlier as well.
Salute, man. Salute Alex Holland checking in from Ireland. Super chats came in. Let me shout out Lawan Williams. Sends us a $10 super chat. Lawan, appreciate it. And Fraser Coleman sends us a super chat, JLs. And he says, Charlie, are you going to call out Dolan for issuing a non-public statement about George Floyd? So let's get into it. First and foremost, rest in peace of George Floyd. It was announced today, JLS, that the 3 additional officers who were complicit in his murder are being charged as well. So another inch forward to justice, but just small inch, and hopefully we'll get some convictions by the end of the year whenever this thing concludes. Your thoughts on the whole Dolan thing that kind of took up some of our attention yesterday? What was your takeaways on that?
What were my thoughts on the Dolan thing? I've been very active on Twitter, probably most of you seen. So I don't think it's any secret where I stand on this. I feel like Dolan absolutely dropped the ball. You have a building full of Black employees, Black athletes. You have a country whose culture is shifting. It feels like the wool is coming from their eyes and are actually supporting the Black cause for once in their life. We're living in the city. New York City is one of the most diverse cities in America. We have all these other teams who have the wherewithal to actually stick up and say these things are wrong and make a public statement about it. And Dolan drops the ball and says nothing. Now, I do acknowledge that Dolan, yes, we've had one of the most diverse front offices in the NBA because of Dolan. But for me, I need the actions and the words together. I don't just need actions. I don't need words. I need the actions and the word. I am thankful that we did have one of the most diverse front offices ever, but words do matter to me. And I think the reason why inequality has happened in this country for so long is because there are good people who claim to be good people who watch bad things happen to people and don't speak up and don't say anything. And that's why 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years goes by, and we're still in the same situation because people do not speak up. And he didn't speak up.
I agree with you. And let me just, some people may not have seen or read the statement. So basically what it was that you had a whole bunch of sports teams coming out in support of George Floyd, some, brave enough to denounce police brutality, and others just coming out against racism as a whole, as a blanket, kind of support. Dolan now sends an email to his employees internally, basically saying that, I know you guys have asked whether we're going to make a public statement. He understands it's a turbulent time with the coronavirus pandemic, civil unrest, so on and so forth. We at Madison Square Garden stand by our values of the respectful and peaceful workplace. We always will. And then he says, as companies of business of sports and entertainment, we are not any more qualified than anyone else to offer our opinion on social matters.
That part right there.
Yeah, that was weak. It was weak.
That part right there, because this is how I read it, CP. This is how I read it. I'm gonna be very candid right now. I do not want to upset the white people who give me money. That's how I read it. Point blank period. I think he was. I think it came out soft in that he was scared to upset. It was political. It was a political move to toe the fence, right? Yeah.
And then he referred to, we uphold our values, which is creating a respectful workplace for all, which has nothing to do with anything that's going on. That will never change. What we say to each other matters. How we treat each other matters, and that'll get us through tough times. Again, I don't think it was a bad statement. It was just a little too neutral. And because of that, he came out with another statement yesterday. Right? He came out with another statement yesterday, basically saying, we denounce racism at all costs. He said, yesterday I made a sincere attempt to provide my perspective on a very difficult issue. Let me be clear. We vehemently condemn, reject racism against anyone, period. It is against every value we hold dear. My point yesterday was about the actions and importance of living your values. At MSG, we have worked hard to build an environment of inclusion and mutual respect, and those values are what we try to live every day. Racism is born from ignorance, blah, 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 blah. So he came out a bit more forceful yesterday.
Better.
My opinion is, I definitely agree with you. First off, let me say, I wasn't expecting anything from any of the sports teams or anything like that. To me, that doesn't really bother me, that whether or not a corporation or anything says something. Because a lot of these things are hollow without the actions behind it. But I said, when he did come out with it, yes, it was internal. I felt like it was a little bit soft. As you said, this is a 80% black league. Your players are black. They are black fathers. You have black employees. It's not to say that Dolan is racist. I never accused him of that. You guys heard me and Oak going back and forth on that. Yep. So I never accused him of that. I just thought it was soft. And as you guys said, they said it, not me, that the brand needs a rebuild. They brought in Steve Stout. So why not take that opportunity to take a leadership position?
Boom.
You are a pillar of the community. Sports is a pillar of the community. If you don't notice that now, look at what's going on. We need sports as a distraction. In the middle of the greatest city in the world that is completely divided between the community and law enforcement, all of which are patrons and supporters of yours. That was an opportunity for him to say a little bit more.
And let me just get a little my personal experience, because it's been a tough week for everybody. Mm-hmm. Tough weekend.
Mm-hmm. Been an emotional week, man.
Right, emotional weekend, right? My job, where I work at, I've actually been impressed with the way my place of work has stepped up.
Yeah.
And actually included the black workers into the program and asked us, what can we do? What do we need to help? They sent out a company statement. They had the Blackout Tuesday, and they set up different meetings and different Zoom meetings for everybody to learn about the history, learn about what to do to help other people. And they were very forward thinking, and personally made me feel a little bit more included into the company. And to me, that's how you lead. And I guess for me, it was even more jarring because I came from that environment. And I'm also saying my company wasn't always that way. It took a lot of work for them to get there, but it got there. So it's not too late for Dolan if he listens, listen. But to go from that and then to reading that, to me, was so scarce. And me knowing how I felt about the company when they actually reached out and went the extra mile to learn and to educate and to ask us, is there anything we can do? I felt like that could be done with the Knicks, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it was an opportunity missed. Now, There was another debate going on about whether Dolan should speak for the black community or anything like that. That was ridiculous. That was never, ever part of the argument or the issue with the statement. Nobody in their right mind is asking James Dolan to be a leader of the black community. No. Don't get that confused, because that's ridiculous. Like I said, I didn't really care if he made the statement or not. I just thought that when he did make the statement, it was a bit soft. At the end of the day, those who are passionate about making a change in the community should still do so, right? Like, it's not about relying on James Dolan to do anything. No. That had nothing to do with anything.
It just sets a standard. It just, to me, it just sets a standard.
Sets its tone.
Do it. Like, it's ridiculous to say that. Listen, the other 28 teams made a statement. None of them are leaders of the black community. So it's even ridiculous in itself to even say that.
Right. So, you know, and again, listen, I've spoken to MSG employees that come out in his support that say, you know, he's not a racist guy, he gives us opportunity, whatever. You look at the front office, excellent report. You talk about what he did for Tyson Chandler. It's not about, you know, labeling him a racist or anything.
Right. I don't believe he's racist, CP. I don't believe he's racist.
It's not at all about that. It's just about saying, you know, again, you said it, not us, that the brand needed a makeover. Right, the brand was getting hit in the media, and I just thought that was an opportunity to grab the bulls by the horns and be like, you know what? Yes, it's just words, but listen, words matter. Words matter. And again, as a pillar of the community, it would have been good to say, you know, we're gonna take the lead on this, bridge the divide between law enforcement and the community, bring some better days ahead with this team, and make the fans proud of us on and off the court, something like that. You know, something along those lines. But again, you know, he realized, or his PR team, whoever it was, realized that it was soft, and he tried to correct himself yesterday. So I give him credit. It is what it is. The actions will speak louder, but it's the actions of us that's more important. You know, what will we do? Those that are passionate to create change and impact what's going on out here, and that's going to fight for criminal justice reform and the other issues that are plaguing our communities. And that, you know, we as a people, as a community, as a fan base, again, if you're passionate about that, you can do things to make a positive impact. You don't have to be out there protesting. You know, protest is not my thing. You don't have to be an activist. You can donate to the activists. You could donate to the groups that's going out there and trying to affect change. There's so many organizations that's out there on the front lines. You can donate and support. You know, throw your hat around them, support them. Sure, there's so many things you could do.
Yeah, you share information. You can call your congressman if you feel like there's some laws you want to actually. There's a lot of things you can do. You can join Campaign Zero, Black Lives Matter. They need artists. They need researchers. You can do a lot.
You can do a lot, man. You could be a mentor. You can anything, man. Anything that contributes to the overall well-being of our people, of our society. You can get involved in every way. You don't have to be Martin Luther King, or you don't have to look for Martin Luther King to lead you. You can start with yourself, and then as things improve, you know, you can look to join groups or whatever affiliations that you want to do. So
yeah, man. I also want to say too is like I understand that ESPN gets on the Knicks a lot, but what I don't want to happen is I don't want to dismiss any and everything because ESPN said it. I think that's what's starting to happen right now. Like, I don't want to disgrace if they have a point. I'm going to agree. And I don't even watch ESPN, so I don't even know what they're saying.
I really don't watch it either.
I don't even watch what he's saying.
Maybe Stephen A said something about it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I wasn't watching. I wasn't sure.
But I don't want to get into this habit of disagreeing with everything ESPN says because ESPN said it. Like, and I feel like that's kind of what's starting to happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, think for yourself sometimes. Right. Now, I'm gonna just take the opposite side of ESPN. What do you think? Yeah.
It's the LOL, you know, it's the LOL Knicks syndrome, you know what I mean? It's the LOL Knicks syndrome. But like I said, you know, I don't want to dwell you spend too much time on his statement, whatever the case. I'm trying to myself be a leader in creating positive change because I feel like a movement is being stirred up.
Absolutely.
Again, I'm not a protester, but clearly the protests have had an impact on, the expeditious manner in which these cops were charged. Maybe not as fast as we'd like, but clearly it put pressure to have some charges and upgrade the charge for the primary criminal here in this case. So it's working. Now I see a lot of distractions going on. Number one, gotta be careful with like the media, consumption during these times, man. Take some breaks, go outside, take a walk, exercise, because
it's a lot.
You go down that rabbit hole and watch all the videos going on and listen to this person going on, and because there's no leadership in this country going on right now, it's a dangerous thing, for your mental and your physical health. So you definitely got to be careful when you're consuming so much. On top of that,
I had to step outside.
On top of that, we in a pandemic. People are working from home. There's more people home watching TV. So a lot of us are not outside like that. So it's very, very easy to get caught down that rabbit hole, man. Don't fall for the okie doke.
Facts.
Definitely don't fall for the okie doke.
Take that walk, man. Yeah. I had to take a couple of walks a day.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I'll say, there's a lot of attention on the looting, and I think that's such a distraction to the whole cause. Listen, it's to me, the people that want to say, oh, the looting is not helping the cause, those are people that don't want to help to begin with. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna get caught up in people robbing and stealing, listen, it's going on every day in front of our eyes, and we don't even pay attention to it.
Yeah, that's why when people say, "Oh, don't loot," because they're gonna make it look bad, and it's gonna make an excuse to. No. In my mind, the people who want it to look bad are gonna find a way to make it look bad.
That's it.
Happens or not.
That's it, bro. That's it.
I'm not for looting. That's not what I'm saying. But you can tell when someone speaks or how they express themselves, whether they're looking for the righteous or they're already set in their mind.
Facts. It's an excuse. I'm not here for it. People gotta understand, bro. In every catastrophic situation, there's always going to be people looking to take advantage, whether it's hurricanes, earthquakes, right? The fake Red Cross people that's calling your house to donate money. There's always people going to look to scam when times are in distress. Okay, do I feel bad that Macy's and whatnot is getting looted? Not really. They'll get that back. They're major corporations that will get that money back. I feel worse for the mom and pop stores.
Absolutely.
The Fordham Road thing. I don't like that. Those people that worked hard to set up themselves for the American dream and
exactly.
Have to now clean up the mess of. It's a lot. You look at the people getting caught. It's a lot of young kids, JS. There's a lot of, I'm not making excuses for it, but don't let that distract you from the main issue.
The message.
Don't let it distract you from the message. So I'm not even concerned about that, because it's just one big distraction. So my point is, there's plenty of ways for people to get involved if you are passionate to do so, and let's do it.
So
let's do it, man. Don't worry about it. Say that again.
Yeah, man. I'm ready to work, man. I'm gonna make it a part of. I'm ready to step it up.
We got to do it, and like I said, everybody has a lane. Right? You don't look for the next MLK, or don't try to be one yourself. If protesting is not your thing, don't protest. Use your craft, whatever it is. Use your craft and figure out a way to use it to enhance your community. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a nutritionist, whether you open up a health food store, whatever it is, there's so many different ways to make a change and make a difference using your path and your passions, because that is going to be the most effective way for you to reach people, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Definitely.
You can just use your passions and use your skills to figure out a way to enhance your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So well said, definitely. Let's go to Ronnie Mack in the building. Ronnie, how you feeling?
Okay, hold on. Yeah, let me.
Yep. Definitely. Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, no speakerphone or anything. But go ahead. What's your point, bro?
Yeah, I took it off. Yeah, I was just going to ask you guys what y'all thought about the Drew Brees statements today. Yeah. And also, if players in general, NBA players, anything, do you feel like they should speak out more about what they see and get their voice? I just wanted to know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Brees' comments and what Ronnie Mack is alluding to is Drew Brees was basically asked again if he would support players kneeling for the national anthem again next season. And Drew Brees basically said, well, I'm not going to support anything that goes against the flag and the military and the people that support our country and people that fight for our country. And it was a very tone-deaf comment, especially with everything going on, understanding that that's what Kaepernick had stood for. Drew Brees himself, JLs, took a knee for the national anthem with his team when everybody was doing it last year. And so, he got dragged. And rightfully so. It was a tone-deaf comment because for somebody to see it that way still, it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he drew the line in the sand. Is all right. I'm almost appreciating knowing that you're that guy. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I know you're that guy. I know what section of the back to put you in.
He got dragged. Malcolm Jenkins, his own teammate, dragged him. LeBron dragged him. Michael Thomas, his wide receiver, dragged him. Alvin Kamara, kind of side-eyed him.
At this point, if you don't know what that kneeling was about, then it has nothing to do with it has everything. It has nothing to do with your understanding and everything to do with you at this point.
It's because you have to understand, it's so political. The way we support things and the way that we come out for things that people just have it in their mind, and people are constantly saying that's not what it's about. That we honor our men and women in service, man. Of course, everybody supports the troops. You know what I mean?
Facts.
It's not about disrespecting a flag or anything like that. It's crazy. What about the people at home, Jay Ellis, that's watching the football game? How many people at home you think is standing up during the national anthem, hand to their heart and reciting the words?
Stay scratching.
You're on the couch dipping your wings in ranch, checking your fantasy football, making sure your lineups are set before 1 o'clock and getting it in.
Hats on and everything.
Yeah, so it's just it's just crazy. But he'll come out tomorrow and recant his statements, and that's unfortunate for him. He just missed the message.
Exactly.
He just missed the message. So again, nothing to get caught up or in a stir about. But you just hope he one day he'll get it. That's
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, me neither. I'm a Giants fan anyway, so it is what it is.
I don't really care.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I'm on 2020 CP. I'm on my. I don't care what nobody think. I don't care.
you just can't get caught up in it. You just can't get caught.
I love
up
it.
In it. But
I actually love it. I love. I hate everything that happened.
Yeah,
but I love this. I don't give it. I love it.
It just, again, when you still stick to that, it's disrespectful to the flag.
You think it's disrespectful to kneel? I don't care. You're an idiot.
It's just, again, trying to toe. It's that Dolan statement, man. It's trying to toe the line and, not offend people who are against those causes. Let's be honest.
Where do you stand? Where do you stand? That's where I'm at right now. Where do you stand,
man? You got to take a stand and not be afraid of the blowback. We're looking for the betterment of our society, overall betterment of our people, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not, because I feel like the reason why society got stuck in neutral because nobody knew where you stood. Racist stuff would happen and people would code it, hide it, call you a thug, do this, do that, do things in the dark, and then hide their hand.
Correct.
And then you look crazy when you say, "Yo, this thing's happened to me," and he's like, "Prove it." It was like, I can't prove it, really. And now you just look crazy and no one believes you. I like this energy, CP. Where do you stand?
You gotta take a stand.
I like this energy.
You gotta take a stand because enough is enough. And we need to see some changes, some systemic. It's a revolution, bro. It has to happen.
Oh my God! This is gonna be me for the rest of my life. I gotta love it.
Listen, it's just the reality. It's just the reality, man. But again, my message again is, we still need unity. You still need to come together, and
absolutely
the messages through the media, the messages through our quote unquote leadership, it's all division. It's all division, man. So we have to stay sharp, stay focused on the task at hand, and come together with the people that want to come together with us, man. And don't be afraid to bond and vibe for a common cause.
Absolutely. And I said it on Twitter too. Like, that's the thing I love about sports. The thing I love about sports is it brings people together who otherwise would not be together. How many people I got cool with just from playing basketball, or them whipping my ass, or me whipping their ass, or they're like, that's what sports is.
Yeah. And you're seeing it now more than ever, JLs, with no sports, and how tense these things are. But if we can come together as fans of a team to support that team, we should be able to it should be easier to come together for other causes. You just have to take out those deep-rooted learnings and those false narratives and those stereotypes that divide us in society. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's easy for you and the next stranger to sit down and talk Knicks for an hour, right?
Absolutely.
But when you start talking about those quote-unquote controversial things, it gets dicey.
It gets super dicey.
It gets dicey. So we should be able to come together the same way that we do around sports.
Exactly. And that's the other thing about it too, is, man, like, sometimes, like, depending on where they're coming, I don't jump down everybody's throat. Sometimes I actually sit down and listen to see where the weird, bigoted thoughts come from, and just try to dissect it, and then hit them with a fact and see how they respond.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
There's certain people I follow. I still follow on Twitter. That I follow just so I can hit them with a fact. Just hit them with a fact.
Just throw it out there.
Just hit them. Not because we best friends. I see you acting crazy. I'm gonna just hit you with a fact every now and again.
There's a couple lessons, man.
Just let you know you're crazy.
Absolutely, bro. All right, man. Let's roll, man. I thought this was a great conversation. Salute to Charlie Ward for coming on. Salute to everybody for watching. And great conversation, man. Well, bottom line is, we need justice. We need unity. Come together, man. Let's go. JL, let's go ahead and sign out, bro.
Yeah, salute. Listen, we did not have an episode of the Naked Time Show because it was a weird weekend and was preparing for multiple things, but we are looking to have one soon, so look out for that on youtube.com/NakedTimeShow. Also, definitely check out the old episodes on SoundCloud and iTunes and Google Play. If you ever listen to us, we really talked about, especially in our old episodes, we really talked about social issues in our episodes towards the end. So this is an interesting time where I feel like the next episode is going to be good, because we are going to be unleashed in our bag. So definitely check out the Naked Time Show. Also, definitely check out NakedTimeShow.com to read our blogs, read Ken's work. Dave just wrote something nice, and enjoy that stuff as well. And also get the merch, even though the merch is coming out mad slow because of the COVID stuff. Definitely check out the merch as well on NakedTimeShow.com. That is all. Back to you, CP.
All right. Appreciate it, Jay. It was a great show, bro. Great job. And salute to everybody that joined us, man. Great show. Great job. Remember, these shows are available in audio podcast format: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon, Alexa. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel and share these videos. Share these videos with a Knicks fan or a basketball fan next time, so that we can get more people in here. JL is tomorrow. They're expected to finalize the reboot of the season, and it's going to reboot without the Knicks. So what's being proposed is a 22 team, the 16 playoff teams, and the 6 teams on the bubble competing with the A seed up for grabs in some sort of play-in tournament. So we'll find out how that works tomorrow. They're expected to vote on it and vote and approve it. Disney World is sight. Knicks season is over. 21-45. The Knicks are locked into the 6th place, 6th worst record. All right. So we'll see. Right now we're at a 50% chance at the 7th or 8th pick in the NBA draft. Give me two. Anything's possible, but let's see what happens. But I'll probably be back to a quick show tomorrow, just breaking down what's been finalized. But yeah, man, that's it. Everybody be safe once again. Salute John Talento, JL's always first in here.
Yeah, man.
Alex Collins out in Ireland. All the mods. Dave, appreciate it. My guy Jared, appreciate it for throwing the compilations together. Fro Magnum, appreciate it for grabbing the highlights. TM, always appreciate it. Keith Sinclair, everybody in the chat, man. Be safe. Be safe out there. Yes, Sunday, Raven Felton, 3 p.m. Don't miss it. Gonna be a good one. Sunday matinee. Raymond Felton is coming to Post Game Live. So see you guys then, man.